Okay, welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to this edition of CAPC Office Hours. Cluster API provider Azure is a CNCF sponsored project, so we adhere to the code of conduct, which means we are all kind to each other. We raise hands when we want to have an opportunity to speak. If anyone's new, I'm scrolling through the list up here. Feel free to say hi, but I feel like we all know each other. Josh, have you introduced yourself ever formally in this session? If not, feel free to say hi and tell us.
Yeah, I think so once before, but hello.
Hello again, welcome.
Thanks.
Hey, David. Okay, so looks like Matt may be back, but I will carry on. I'll go ahead and share my browser. Let's see. And nobody wants to read through this issue. So let's go to GitHub cluster. Do we want to look at one of the projects?
Let's check out the milestone. I think the milestone is the most accurate in terms of release progress.
84%, not bad. Okay, so if I click on 10 open. So this is the open, 55 complete, that's a lot. So how about we go down, these aren't ordered in any specific way, maybe they're ordered chronologically, but I don't think they're meaningfully ordered. So I'll just go down one by one and maybe consider if we want to keep it in the milestone or drop it, or maybe anybody wants to say anything else about it. So starting with flat car support for CAPC. I know this is a fairly large one. Do we want to keep this in the milestone or do we want to punt it to vNext? Make it a little bigger.
Seems like we're really close.
Go ahead, Cecile.
But they have a lot of stuff in motion. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's okay. Yeah, so for flat car, we merged community galleries, which was a prerequisite in order to use the community gallery image that was published for flat car. So we're getting closer. I think at this point, the PR just needs rebasing and then using the community gallery image. I wouldn't say it's a blocker for release. If it makes it, great. If not, then it will just make it the next stream. And I think that should apply to most of the issues here, by the way. Unless we have like a regression or a bug, I don't think we should hold the release for anything. So I think it's fine to keep it for now. If it doesn't make it, we can move it to the next one.
That makes sense. So it sounds like generally the idea is we kind of kick things into vNext at the 11th hour when we're ready to cut a release. So none of these should be considered blocking. I mean, unless, I suppose there are exceptional cases, but it sounds like you've looked through this list recently and are confident that none of these need to have before we release 1.4. Is that right?
I think it's worth going through the list right now, but just, yeah, like anything that's not a bug, I haven't checked this whole list, but anything that's not a bug, I think we should hold to that same rule.
Okay, cool. Well, let's just go down the list then. So the second one, I can speak a little bit to. There hasn't been any recent increased cloud controller manager coverage across the various tests. But it would be fairly easy to sort of pivot and prioritize that based on the Helm chart we have. So that's the status on that. I don't have the latest status on the CSI storage driver test update that, let's see if it's linked in this. Yeah, so Ashutosh is working on this. Oops, I don't want to click on his profile. I want to click on. Is there a link? Is there a link? Is there a link? Well, we don't need to get super detailed information, but I know that that's in progress and may make it by 1.4 if we release on July 6th. So that's a brief status of that. Any questions on this before we keep going down? Cool. This, Cecile, can you give a broad overview of the progress that we've made since, I guess, 1.3 and maybe anything that might land in the next week or two?
Yeah, so I don't think we'll close that one, like the epic, because we won't get to scale set in time. So I think scale set is the last one remaining, but we have public IPs and
So this is done.
tags.
Can I check it?
No, so these ones are in progress and they have their own issues in the milestone, and those two I think should make it. They both have PRs open that are pretty much almost ready for review. Jonathan's working on that.
Great. Okay, cool. That makes sense. So this one it's been, I think, just basically participating in lots of releases over the past several months because it's an epic, as you say. And it looks like we've got the specific issues for that. So that kind of takes out 3 issues from this list. So the next one is node image upgrades to AKS node pool. Let's see what we can, is there a PR that links to this? It looks like it's essentially not being worked on. Is that true?
Yeah, sounds like it. Maybe we should unassign the person who's assigned right now and put it
Good
back
call.
into the general help wanted out of the milestone queue.
Okay, cool. So unassign, oops. And then is there another, oh, come on. I have no idea why that happened. That means I talked to you too much, Cecile. And is there another gesture I should invoke here?
You can do /help that will mark it as help wanted.
Cool.
Oh, and then /milestone next if we want to move it out of the 1.4.
I think that makes sense based on just what I can anticipate the scope being. This is not something that would be picked up and then finished in the next several days, I don't think.
I forget if it's V next or next.
I think it's v.next, isn't it?
V dash.
If you scroll up, there's a milestone thing on the right or on the right pane. You might be able to.
Oh, it's literally a tag.
Yeah, right here.
Got it.
Yeah, you can also do it manually since you're
Next.
admin. Okay,
I saw next.
great.
All right, sorry in advance to anyone watching this recording as I sniffle my way through this. The hay fever is happening out here on the balcony, but I'm still going to stay on the balcony. It's nice. Where am I nice? There we go. Okay, cool. All right, so we are here. Add additional tags property to CRD Azure managed machine pool. Is this a similar situation where it's not actively being worked on? Let's find out. Yeah, it looks like it. Should we just ping, because Zane's been fairly active in the recent past, should we just ping him and ask him if, rather than unassign it, ask him if he's going to work on this?
Sure.
Cool.
Yep, sounds good. And then I think we can kick it out of the milestone anyways.
Do this. So milestone next. How's that look? That's all right. Okay. All right, so moving right along. Look at this, our list is getting, some of our Ajax has not updated, but visually I can see it smaller. Okay, cool. So now we are at very meta, document the new release cadence. I know that there's been some work on this, hasn't there? Or am I imagining that? Maybe I'm just imagining this conversation a month ago.
We started talking about it, and then Bridget had mentioned that she was interested in helping out with this. I don't know if she has been with right now. I can check with her. But otherwise, yeah, I think we should do this pretty soon.
Yeah, I think I'll assign it to myself, and then I will, maybe the 3 of us can have a quick, like a 45-minute session and just knock it out, or at least knock out an outline, and then I can fill it in and we can turn it into a PR.
Sounds good.
Because Because that sounds like something we would benefit doing in this release cycle. Especially while we're close to actually releasing, will be all the things that we do are top of mind. Okay, multi-tenancy within one manager instance using Azure user assigned identities. That
that's mine.
is a mouthful.
Yeah, that one has a PR. The PR is being reviewed. I saw there were comments. I need to address the comments. But yeah, I think it's fine to leave it there for now.
Oh yes, I am familiar with that PR. Cool. Yeah, that one's almost done. Great. So we'll leave that in. Thank you for doing that. That PR looks good, by the way. And Matt, do you want to talk about this issue? This sounds like
That's
related to
ready to
many PRs
merge.
you've been working on that.
This is ready to merge.
Okay, cool.
James just had a comment at the end about we should introduce some more logs, so I opened a different PR for that, but this should be able to merge right now, I think.
Okay, awesome. So that all sounds like we're in control of everything on
Did I
this
say
list.
David? I meant James. I'm thinking about David because I'm typing something. I meant James.
I think I heard James actually.
Okay, good.
And I
Okay,
simply added an issue into the milestone as you were doing, but I just added the public IP tags, which some internal user asked for. And so I'm working on that. I'm gonna have a PR open today or tomorrow.
Okay, wow, that's nice. That's great. I know that's been asked for a long time, so well done. On that note, I was thinking maybe the next thing we do is go through just the issue queue generally and quickly see if there's anything that should be in the milestone that we forgot to tag. Does that make sense? Or has that been done very recently?
No, I think that's a
That
good
sounds-
idea.
Yeah, that sounds good. Or even PRs maybe. I don't know if we want to do PRs and issues or just issues.
Okay, cool. I have a bad habit of opening up PRs that don't link to issues. So well, let's go in order here. So I don't think we need to consider this as a change on our side. Do we need to account for this in the milestone?
No, that's
Any
a
thoughts?
testing thing. I think it's not user facing, so it's not really relevant.
Yeah, cool. I agree. All right, so this is already accounted for. This is new, and I wouldn't be surprised if this merged in the next couple of weeks. I think this, I mean, maybe there's more complexity here than I am anticipating, but the PR is in a really good, like 75% there state, and I've already started reviewing it. So I think, assuming that Brian is serious about getting it merged, I would guess it'll merge before the milestone. Is it worth tagging this? Or is this kind of coming from out of nowhere? Should we tag the issue?
Yeah, I think so. For context, that one is actually something like a lot of people want. So if we can get it in soon, it's going to unblock Azure CNI without having explicit support for Azure CNI. So it's a way of supporting pre-allocating IPs for pods. And so that is a prerequisite for Azure CNI right now with self-managed clusters. So yeah, if, you know, as long as the reviews go well and the author is responsive, I think we should be able to get it in soon. I don't know if, you know, it will make it for before the release, and we shouldn't wait for it if it doesn't, but I would say if it doesn't, we can just move it to the next milestone.
Yeah, I mean, how sad are we when we cut a release with changes that don't have a milestone tag that, you know, basically are included in a release, but were never sort of tagged for inclusion formally?
So we actually have we have a milestone bot automation where every PR that merges gets tagged with the latest milestone. And so one of the release like tasks when you do a cat release is to go update the milestone applier so that it will start tagging with the next milestone that we created. So that one, if it merges, it will get included in the milestone. It's more like, do we want to track it as like something we're working towards as part of the milestone? That's the only thing.
Got it. Well, I think if we feel like we can support the contributions, then it might level up the sort of motivation and enthusiasm around it, so it's worth doing. If that,
Sounds good. to
I
me.
mean, at the expense of potentially adding more pressure, but or maybe the other way to put it is we don't want to sort of set expectations too highly where if this does take longer, folks are disappointed that it doesn't get included in 1.4 if it gets kicked out. But I think we're fine. So I would say my vote is to tag it. Does anybody dissent? Cool. So is it 1.4 or V1.4?
V1.4.
V1.4. Okay.
We should close the other milestones. I guess they're still open, huh?
Yeah, so I was wondering how to deal with that because we're still cherry picking stuff to them, but we're not planning. So yeah, I think it makes sense to close them. You're right.
Just they show up in red and they say they're several months overdue.
That's true.
I'm happy to do that right now. Is the convention here to set the milestone on the issue? Do we prefer the issue over the PR for? Come on. Do we for both or do we care?
It will set it on the PR when the PR merges. Issue is usually like when we want to track something to do that's not done yet. I don't know
Yeah.
if there's a convention though.
Okay, so what is the gesture here? Is it to close it?
Yeah.
Or edit?
Close.
Close, cool.
And then it will
Alright.
just put it in the closed
Got it.
section.
Good job, everybody working on 1.2 and 1.3. All right. Okay, cool. So back to the PRQ. This is also something that landed recently that I think will land soon. I'm not sure if there's an issue associated with it. Let's see. There is. So I'm going to advocate that we tag this with a milestone as well. Does anybody want to? Very interesting. That was. Guess there isn't an issue for it. Is anyone familiar enough with 1701? I mean, this actually rings a bell for myself. Is OS type in here? No, it was added retroactively. Cool. So I'm happy to simply tag this PR with a milestone and then lean in with the contributor to try to get this mergeable in the next couple weeks. Anyone have any concerns about that? I'm hearing silence. Either I'm offline or everyone is fine. Okay, cool. Okay. Is this PR Nawaz, is this testing only or CI?
Your audio is not working, Nawaz.
I think it is.
Oh,
I glanced at it briefly.
I
Okay,
can't hear anything. Can you hear us, Nawaz?
we can
Is
hear
it
you
just
now.
my?
Oh, even now?
Yeah,
I can
Yeah,
hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, it's working now.
I just wanted
So,
to validate that this was this is CI hygiene only.
what's CI? Just related to CI. This is related to the makefile cleanup. So I don't really know if it falls into CI.
Okay, cool. So it looks like we've got like an epic-ish issue that's tracking lots of changes here. Do we want to milestone this or is this internal housekeeping? I guess I'll be silent, and let Cecile and Matt, others add some commentary.
Yeah, I think that one is developer focused, like DevFlow CI scripts. So not user facing.
Cool. All right. Thank you for working on that, Nawaz. The next one is mine. I will tag this as a milestone. I should actually file a bug. I'm going to file an issue right now real quick. Okay, so thank you everyone for your patience. So what is the correct way to clarify this? All right, so okay, I don't have an issue number yet, so I can't do that. I'm going to, just to make this quick, where is the CubeADM issue? Cool. I'm going to link to this CubeADM issue, and then I'll fill out more cluster or CAPC specific details async, so you guys don't have to watch me. And so I'll submit this issue incomplete, and I will tag it with milestone. So we definitely want to fix this before 1.4. Or Cecile, is this something that we want to track? Would you consider this I think we consider this a bug, so I think we want to track this.
Yeah, I think that's a bug. Yeah, agreed.
I don't know how many users are running
It's
latest in production, but it's still,
well, it's a test bug.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I also don't think we fully understand the scope. So until we do, it's fair enough to just call it a bug. Cool. So I'll tag this with the milestone. And then I will edit the PR that I'm working on to reference this. No, sorry. I don't want to edit the title. The title's fine. I want to say this. Okay, great. Okay, close. Is that what I wanted to close? Cool. All right, here we go. So we already talked about this one. Find Kubernetes versions for E2E testing. Josh, you're gonna get your money's worth. Add name and owner tags to network gateways. So I don't think we've talked about this. So that must mean it's not in the milestone. It refers to an issue. So maybe let's go to the issue. Do you anticipate landing this in the next week or two?
We lost Josh.
We lost Josh. Sorry, I can only see my screen.
I think it was pretty close. I just need to review from what I saw.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna go ahead and milestone it then. All right. And where are we here? Okay. I have definitely reviewed this. I can't recall though. Looks like this is CI only. Yes, this is. Do folks agree this is a CI improvement? So we'll
Yes.
keep reviewing
We're
that
nodding.
as appropriate. Cool. Great, thank you. We talked about this. This is a sort of epic PR that will not merge anytime super soon. Make public IPs reconciled to the ASIC. We talked about that. I'm going to pass over these work in progress ones. Okay, this is what I was referring to earlier for CSI. I think we're getting too far down. So I think we're good. Anyone see anything they want to talk about? I'm going to maybe go to the first or second page of the issue queue and just quickly see if there's anything there.
Sounds good.
Cool. Okay. I'm gonna look for something I don't recognize. I mean, generally issues opened 3 or 4 days ago are probably not appropriate for prioritizing as releasing in 3 or 4 days in the future, but
What about Cloud Node Manager windows and crash loop back off? Seems like a bad bug.
and
That's the
There's a
same issue,
related-
but in cloud provider, since cloud provider is crashing.
yeah, I'm just seeing
Oh.
if there's any engagement anywhere. Is it worth asking if it's AKS or AKS or CAPC? I mean, AKS or like native CAPC?
I think that was probably CabZ, just because the same person was opening multiple issues around the same time where they were using those.
Okay, cool.
CabZ. Yeah, cluster API provider Azure version 131.
This looks like
All right,
it was
well-
part of the Helm chart, so go bug in the Helm chart or something.
It's what is the pod
At the
say?
top, I think I said Helm install.
No, I'm just looking for the actual. So if the pod isn't, I assume Cloud Node Manager Windows refers to the pod. So if the pod isn't crashed and back off, what is it saying? It's saying that the hell
API
Z.
server healthy. Unreachable.
Yeah, that. I mean, I'm going off the top of my head. I'm not aware that there's anything that the Helm chart could do to break this.
Are we testing Windows with external cloud provider with the Helm chart in our external cloud provider tests?
That is a
Or is
great
it
question.
Linux only?
The answer is yes, but let's make sure I'm not lying to you. So if we go to templates, test, CI, and I haven't heard James say, no, we're not. So I think he agrees with me too. Oh, wrong one, sorry. External cloud provider. Oh, I want to look at the template itself. That's easier. Yeah, let's go to Azure machine. Sorry, template. Because we're not using machine pools. So actually, let's look for our kinds. We've got 4 matches, so that's a good sign that there's 2 pools. So we've got our control plane machine. Oh no, looks like I am wrong. At least this test is only Linux. If I'm going too fast, let me know. I'm super familiar with this, so I may be going too fast. Let's see what this one looks like. James, were you surprised when I asserted that we were testing Windows?
I haven't followed this.
Okay, so this one has 6 matches, which means there's going to be 3 pools. So we've got a Linux one here that's selected, and then we've got a Windows one here. What this means is that, let's find out where we're testing this.
Yeah, I say you'd have to
I'm
be
gonna-
explicitly enabling those. So
I'm going to quickly.
So that's the one that cloud provider folks are using in their tests, I think.
That's
PR
right.
tests and
That's
things
why
like that.
That's why I was so quick to say yes, because I think I was focused on that. I'm in the wrong repo, sorry. Oh no, I'm not in the wrong repo. Why is that not? I think this is probably happening in CI entry point. Sorry to folks who have no idea what I'm doing. This is like super in the weeds of stuff that I'm familiar with recently. But as Cecile said, there's a lot of different test sort of vectors, and that template with the CI-version suffix indicates that the template is designed to accommodate sort of custom CI built bits of Kubernetes and potentially a cloud provider. So CAPZ, we maintain a script that helps the cloud provider developers do those tests in here. And so let me Okay, so where this is going to happen is, Cecile's familiar with this, so she can tell me if I'm out to lunch. Where this is going to happen is when we choose this template based on the passing in of a CI version, and then if they're combining CI version, which is a variable that represents a Kubernetes CI built set of bits, if you combine that with this, then we're going to do a bash substitution that substitutes prow for prow external cloud provider. And so the template is going to eventually explode to the one we were looking at, prow external cloud provider -CI version. So it would take a little bit of detective work to identify exactly which tests are running this, but I think Cecile's right that these are the tests used by the Cloud Provider Azure maintainers to get signal on the Cloud Controller Manager and Cloud Node Manager bits as they develop them. So they will use that template to build a CAPC cluster running both Linux and Windows pools running out of Tree Cloud Provider. Does anyone have any questions after all that?
No question, but this sounds good. And then, yeah, I think maybe we should just comment on the issue saying we should be testing, Windows with external cloud provider and cloud provider. So,
Yeah, let's go.
and then just
so
follow up with the cloud provider issue. I don't know if the issue is really CAPZ related, even if it was cluster built with CAPZ.
Yeah, so where did this rabbit hole start? It started. Matt, you asked, what does your memory?
Crash.
I don't
Somewhere.
know. I
Yeah.
cleared my stack. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, that
the,
one.
Yeah, but you had a backup with all of us, so. All right,
Yeah.
cool. So it is, I think I agree with Cecile, it's worth commenting that we are,
if they installed the Helm chart prior to installing like Calico or any sort of networking, then they wouldn't have connectivity back to
Yep.
API server. So.
I'm just gonna ask some folks. But I agree with James that there is a possible race condition here, which I would think that Kubernetes itself should take care of. Yeah, so that would be concerning if that race condition was terminal. The race condition being like the Cloud Node Manager stuff arrives before there's schedulable networking, and so there's no node to schedule it onto. That should eventually reconcile as the CNI bits are actually installed via the kube proxy weird thing we do in Windows. And then, sorry to call it weird, but it's confusing to me. Once that's done, then the node should turn ready, and then the Cloud Node Manager bits should be scheduled successfully. All right, back to our issue queue. Anything else here? I think that there's too many pages of issues. We probably shouldn't just manually go down all the issues. But if anyone wants me to, I would be happy to do that. Maybe I'm going to stop sharing just to touch base with folks' faces and see if there's a next phase of this discussion. Any other topics we want to bring up?
Thanks for doing this. I think it's pretty useful to do this like every once in a while, like once, maybe like the office hours before before each minor release, if time permits, just so we can check in. I don't know if this would be useful to other people watching this, but just to get an idea of what's on our list and what we're thinking in terms of current backlog and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we have our GitHub foo nicely dialed in, doing these /milestone / whatever can be really helpful to the community because we're sending messages about the way that we're responding in real time to prioritization, et cetera, et cetera. So that we should definitely do this regularly every 2 weeks or so, I think. So yeah, if we landed on an office hours where it was all contributors, we probably would not want to take, we wouldn't have the time to take this. So we need to schedule some alternate time. We probably can't rely on this as the time to do that work.
So somewhat related to that, we should see if we can scare up. We had a plan ideally of trying to have a demo or something interesting to make sure people want to come to the meeting. Maybe we should plan on, or at least see if we have any ideas for something we could do 2 weeks from now by way of a demo or something that we could put a headline on the meeting. So if anybody has any ideas, think of something we could do. I could maybe demo Azure machine pools by then, but it's not working yet. I mean, machine pool machines.
I like looking at David's face when you said that.
I wasn't watching.
He
You give
was
me
a
the
bit like,
encouraging,
"Whoa, whoa,
excited
whoa, whoa."
face.
I think he was more like,
No.
wait, really? Oh, okay. If we get the AKS Windows node type merge, we can demo building an AKS cluster with Windows nodes on it. That's not possible right now.
Did
I mean,
somebody
I
open
think we
it up?
should reach out. Yeah. Yeah. The contributor.
Okay, yeah.
Just
Yeah, he
today.
reached out to me first.
Oh, cool.
Was it Luther?
That rings a bell. Yeah, let me just
Yeah.
quickly share
He's
screen
active.
again.
He's active in SIG Windows. He was he was at Rancher and just moved to another company. So
Cool.
yep, that's him.
Yep.
Awesome. He said he was going to do it, so that's awesome.
And I think an AKS cluster demo would be really cool. And might be even better if we can get one of the actual users to, show it off, or maybe we can do like a pair on it, like, one of us plus someone who's using it.
I agree 100%. That would be better. So yeah, let's reach out to folks that we know who've been contributing and see, hey, you want to run a demo? And if they're into that, that's great. Yeah.
Another topic that I could show at some point, it's nothing new, but just it's a question that comes up a lot, is just the all the networking setup and all the stuff you can do with bringing your own VNet and bringing your own public IP, and how CABZ handles all of that. How does it know which lifecycle, which resource lifecycle it owns versus things that you infrastructure that you bring pre-existing, and just how all that stuff is configured. But that's more like a later, if we want some additional demo and we as a backup.
Cool.
That would be useful.
That sounds super interesting to me, especially just a walkthrough, a high level walkthrough of, as a PR reviewer, sometimes you get these very interesting scenarios, but you're not quite sure why these scenarios exist and how they relate to other alternate scenarios. So that would be really good. What I would love to see, honestly, is an hour-long demo, like a long demo where you create a cluster and then you just completely change it 30 times and watch the transformation of the cluster over time. Maybe we should do a private demo to uncover gremlins and maybe at the end of that session comes 6 bugs. But I would like to see more demos around that for the community, for folks to really understand. Especially, I was talking with you, Cecile, offline about this. A lot of folks, they get their cluster running, they've got all their production workloads, and they want to keep that cluster around for as long as possible. And so being able to demonstrate them sort of mutation capabilities of cluster API in CAPC, I think would be very compelling.
Yeah, I think that's a great like introduction, not introduction, but like folks who are not familiar with cluster API demo, like, oh, here's what's appealing and how like what it brings. I feel like regular contributors and users of CAPZ are already past that point where they know that like that's what, but that would be, I think that's a really good one to bring to a larger audience, not just CAPZ office hours is what I mean.
Cool. I'm not sure that I agree 100% with that. Like, I think, say someone who built their cluster with the cluster resource set Calico and it's been sitting there for 9 months, and demoing how you can rip that apart and put on a Helm chart using the official Calico. Like, this is just an example. I can't do this right in this second.
Yeah.
How you could basically upgrade their CNI.
Oh, that would be useful.
That's like,
yeah.
there's like no documentation around that right now.
Yes, that's still like moving pieces. I was talking more about like, this is how you upgrade Kubernetes and this is how you scale. Like all of that is more introductory.
Yeah, do we have how do you change your cluster from using one VNet to another, for example? Because a lot of these things are exposed
Can
as,
you do
as like,
that?
well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like if I'm a naive cluster API user and I see, okay, cool, I've got these abstractions, I've got these like declarative specs. What happens if I change this configuration from this to this? I would expect cluster API to magically, achieve that goal state, or to give really clear error messages if that
Yes.
mutation was not possible and not do any harm. So those are the kinds
We
of
could
things
do
that
like
would be,
a,
go ahead.
oh, sorry, we could do a live bug bash, or yeah, like change all the things. And I guess maybe that's what you're saying. See what isn't validated properly, and if
Yeah.
it is, like, does it actually work? If it's allowed.
Yeah, it'd be worth enumerating, just like basically trying to break your cluster and proving that CAPC's got your back. Like you can't change your replica count to, from 5 to Fleetwood Mac string or something, and your cluster goes down or something weird like that.
I'm going to take note of this so we don't forget. Demo ideas for the future. We said AKS clusters, and then with Windows nodes maybe. What else did we say? Break your cluster live.
David, we got to get some WASI stuff going on soon. I know where you live. Bring your WASI demos to CAPC.
Soon. We have another one that's baking right now.
Sure, it'll be
I think
delicious.
after June 28th.
All right, I think that's a pretty good list.
Okay, should we take 9 minutes back? I'll do the upload to YouTube thing after we say goodbye. Hope everybody's hay fever's doing good. I'm gonna go tend to mine.
All right.
See everyone online.
Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, everybody, good to see y'all.
Take care.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.